3! He hit her so hard it replayed 3 different times! In a manga! What's up, guys? Once again, here we are to do a breakdown / review of chapter 253 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as, well, it's officially known as the Inumaki Showdown or whatever. But you know what it really is. It's the decisive battle in the uninhabited demon-infested Shinjuku Part 25. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, this chapter has got a lot in it. Even though it ain't got a lot in it. But you know we got a lot to get into, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Maki's ending had it on her. And kept it on her. At all times. But she didn't go for the head. Now, like, I'm gonna tackle this more in depth in a separate video, especially now that we are on break. I don't know. I checked it. It wasn't a mistake. We are on break. So I'm gonna make a video talking about it more in depth. I want to touch on it here. I love this color page. It is fantastic. It is beautiful. It is scrumptious. Amazing. I love Gege's coloring style. Once again, it's very, honestly, it's kind of different than a lot of people color Gege's art, which is always cool to see. It's always cool to see how a mangaka colors their own art versus how the fans color their art. Because, of course, there are variances from artist to artist, colorist to colorist. And, of course, Gege has his own styles and intentions with these characters and stuff like that. But that aside, before I get into glazing the art itself, because you know I gotta. Welcome to that guy with a pencil, where I have it on me and keep it on me at all times, where I gotta glaze artists. But he's not worth it. He's not. I'm sorry. He's not worth it. She could have ended this. She later on in this very chapter goes to talk about how she needs to end it. She could have ended it right here. Right there. And really not right here. Because right here was kind of like 2 chapters ago. But still, it could have been over, Maki. You could have, like, I get it. I get it. I get it. But you're down for, you are, like, legit, I don't even think it's worth it if we do get to the end. Like, if we save him, we are in this is a sunk cost fallacy at this point. Maybe that's what they're going by, sunk cost fallacy, where it's like, well, we've lost 4 people already. We might as well keep losing. Dog, he's not worth it. Like, like, I know it sounds so dark and so wrong. It's so horrific to say. But, like, and especially, here's the thing, especially if they believe, which for good reason, because I believe he is, if Yuta is your strongest fighter after Gojo, if he's all you got left after that, you mean to tell me the plan after he fails isn't to immediately sack Mega? Why? Why? Like, just once again, just looking at the cost-benefit analysis. The benefit of them beating Sukuna is that they beat Sukuna, for 1, hopefully stop the merger, for 2, and 3, save Megami. But, so far, what have we invested? If we're talking straight stocks, because you know we in Agenda Kaisen, so we got to talk about stocks and investments. If we're looking at the investment, we'll put into this fund right here. Let's look at it. Let's be logistic. Let's be logical. We have put in Gojo. We have put in Higuruma. We have put in Kashimo. We've just put in Yuta. And we're also going to put in Maki and more. So, while we won't count Maki, because once again, we're talking about why she should have gone for the head. But we are going to include Maki. But 4 people for 1 person is not even true. He isn't. And, like, here's the thing. I get it. Kashimo was an ally. In heavy quotation marks. He was an ally. As in, he was mainly there for smoke. And if he could have off Sukuna, he would have. Don't get me wrong. If Kashimo actually was strong enough to have off Sukuna, or if he moved quick enough, like if he had grabbed Sukuna, instead of like, if he had done that, instead of doing that, if he had just clamped his hands on Sukuna's head and fried his dome piece with 2 electrical magnetic waves, like he could have, then that would have been that. Kashimo clearly did not have Megami's best interest in mind. He literally says this during the Gojo fight. He actively wants Gojo to forget about Megami and just start throwing hands aggressively. Don't get me wrong. That's true. That's accurate. That's real. That's viable. But my thing is, right? Remove him. We're still down 2 people at the time. Let's assume Yuta's going to live. Because he probably will. But, like, let's assume Yuta lives. 2 people. 2. Unless you think everyone's alive somehow after getting sliced in half or bisected or something close to it. Megami's not worth it. He simply, especially Especially in this case where you are losing every single viable card you have. Yuta was your most viable card. I ain't been lying. As a Maki meat muncher, I still think Yuta pound for pound is a greater fighter. And I would still probably end up ranking him higher just because of his versatility. But if Mr. Versatility in the second strongest after Satoru Gojo got saving Megami should have been off the table. Honestly, Maki, if she was told not to, she should have made the choice for herself. Pierce him through the head. Remove his dome piece, because once you sacrifice the means of surprise, it's gone. They can't do that anymore. Maki, you should have known better. Like, don't get me wrong, I like that she was confident in this chapter in the fact that, you know, maybe she could get Sukuna up at it. She just should have gone for that. That is the easiest and most clean-cut way. Going for anything else at this point was a waste. Even if it was his heart. Especially since she notes last chapter that she knew that Sukuna could survive without his heart. Like, she knew. She knew. So this, like, I'm going to glaze Maki extremely this chapter. She fumbled. But I'm not even just going to blame it on her, because I'm assuming this is just the universal plan. Sacrifice everything for Megami. I'm sorry. Going back to the original 3-point plan, the 3-point structure, now with the merger in play, because I believe the merger was in play when they were playing it, I'd say Megami and Sukuna, W trade. You remove the king of all evil, and the final finger's already been eaten. Sukuna's cooked. He will never show up again. If they had off this Sukuna, if Maki had just... and his head was on the ground, that was it. He was done, unless he managed to, like, incarnate his eyeballs as cursed objects. If his head was gone, or his brain was pierced, he likely couldn't even do that. Sukuna would be cooked. You would never have to worry about you, nor future generations would never have to worry about Sukuna again. You would have lost Megami. Womp womp. He wasn't worth it. I'm sorry. I'll admit, I'm indifferent to Megami. But he ain't worth it, dog. He really ain't. So this panel, metal. I'm gonna stop, because once again I plan to make a whole video talking about it more in depth and like doing a full proper cost benefit analysis and like all that. But this panel's gorgeous. Back to glazing. I love the detail of Sukuna smiling with the sliced mouth. Like literally the upturn of the right side of his smile is literally hard to see, if not flat out impossible to see, because of the blood pouring from it, from where you slashed his mouth open. I love the detail that he's like, I think this little white stuff here is meant to be the steam, because he's still trying to regenerate. I like that little detail. It's overlapping different things. I do love the fact that he just looks so dirty and grungy and beat up and like nigh on atomized, because he was nearly atomized on numerous occasions. Of course, his pants are in disarray because they were hit by a 200% hollow well, not the pants. The pants were fine. But they were hit by an unrestricted hollow straight on. And I like how Jacob's Ladder didn't have genuine effects. He's straight up burning. He has burn marks all over him because he legit got hit. And I also like that his eyes are like a bright, deep, saturated crimson red. Like they stand out in comparison to his lower eyes, which notably are like very light and soft. Like it emphasizes the dramatism and the difference of the eyes in comparison. These aren't natural. This is a second face. They are not meant to be there. And I love how everything from the eye color to the size of the eyes to even the like seemingly enough bone-like structure of the eye containers, like I guess, like can they blink? Are the eyelids containing that? Whatever this is, it looks more like bone than it does like flesh, and I like it. It's like this extra piece of Sukuna, and I like that his hair is pink and Yuji's isn't, because once again, Yuji having pink hair is like anime revisionist history. He doesn't actually have that. But I also do like that soul split. It's just soaked. It is soaked in his juice, and I love how it converges. Like the tattoos end converging perfectly on the point, almost as if they were pointing to where his heart is in order to pierce it. Beautiful stuff there. And I even like how the lower belly mouth is almost kind of pseudo smiling for multiple reasons. Probably because one, it's enjoying itself. Two, because finally Maki's here. Meaning the last thing, as this chapter reveals, the last thing he was actually genuinely interested in since Satoru Gojo has finally shown up. Everything else was nice. It was good. It was possibly even stronger in the case of some of them. But Maki's an anomaly. And speaking of Maki, I love how she's drawn here. Cloaked in shadow, hidden in the darkness. Completely in Sukuna's shadow. So she's coated by this extra layer of darkness. I love how she specifically looks up. She's like making eye contact. She wants to see the look on Sukuna's face as she right in the back. Beautiful. I love the fact that she herself almost has a little bit of a like she looks mad devious here. And I love me a little devious individual. So I love it when she's like, and I love how the stance is firm. She's locked in. Like, you can tell she jabbed it through and then locked. And she was really, like, you can see from her positioning, like, she's ready to, and you can tell that even by the position of the blade itself. She was going to do more damage. Like, if Sukuna didn't, like, if he didn't leap off the blade, she was aiming for something. Of course, it looks like she was going to, like, aim left and cut out of here. Because, once again, I don't think they were trying to get rid of Megami, which is a mistake at this point. But she was definitely moving for it. And also, like, how Yuji's drawn here. Something about, like, the extra dramatic, like, I don't know, the supersize on these... Not Scalar. Is it Scalar? Yeah, I think it is Scalar. Yeah, the supersize on the Scalar looks really, really nice here. I like the original coloring for Yuji. I like how his red, the red of his hoodie is deeply saturated, and at least, hold on, let me check. Maybe there's just a brightness thing on my computer. Yeah, it's more so a brightness thing. But his uniform just seems pure black, like he's lost in an abyss. And all the cuts that are still slowly but surely, some leaking, some have closed up. And I like how he has this mix of like a pseudo smile, but his eyes are still wide because even he was barely expecting it. I love that. Once again, a beautiful color page. Fantastic work by Gege. And the coloring itself. Notably, I'm that guy with a pencil. I own a bunch of coloring materials. I hate coloring. I don't know, something about it. It never does it for me. It's why whenever you see me do like my traditional art, it's always cross-hatching. I don't mind doing coloring and like digital art because I can just erase it immediately if I make a mistake. I can't erase digital colors. I can't just hit the undo button in real life. So I gotta respect it. I like the multiple shades of Yuji. I like the multiple variations of the red, the deeply saturated darker reds versus the lighter reds to show the emphasis of light. I like I love how you can tell the wounds are healed by the fact that they aren't like bright red. The blood isn't bright red saturated. It's like dried up as if he's forcefully scabbed them. He's advanced his healing process to the point where they've closed up, but they're still like ready to burst. Like I bet if Sukuna were to like scrape at one of these cuts, just based on how they're drawn here, they would burst open and fresh start dripping again. And same thing with all the coloring on Sukuna. I love the different variations, all the light reflecting off of it, the numerous levels of like, I'm not sure what color you would call it, that peach. And I also like that he's actually like seemingly enough darker skin than Yuji, but that may come from the fact that he just got like a holy tan. So overall, fantastic coloring by Gege. Let's actually hop into the chapter itself. My apologies for the glaze. You know I got a glaze. But speaking of glaze, from 1 minute glaze to another, the glaze is here for everyone and each other. We cut to a time long past. And I say long past, but I don't actually know when this takes place. Presumably long past, as this is pre-Shibuya. As the question is proposed to a bunch of sorcerers. Interesting that Gojo's even asked, but I guess, he'd probably be willing to answer. Who is the strongest grade 1 sorcerer? Mei naturally says, Kusakame. Like, seemingly enough no hesitation. She's like, yeah, it's him. It's him. He won't admit it, but it's him. He's him. And we see that Nanami goes to say, depends, but probably Kusakame. That's my personal opinion. And then Gojo says, if I had to take a guess, probably Kusakabe, but maybe not if we include the big 3 families. And then Kusakabe himself says, someone besides me and Uzumi. Usami. I have no idea how to say the name. But with it being the case, Kusakabe is the genuine answer from notable people. Like, I get why someone like Toto wasn't asked, or someone like, what are the grade ones? Like Naobito or Naoi wasn't asked, because they probably glazed themselves. But with that being the case, Mei is a good reputable source. Because remember, I'm going to say like even more than someone like Toto, she's kind of like the definition of a grade 1 next to Nanami. Like these are the male and female definition of grade 1s. Extremely proficient, high level sorcerers with lots of experience who have likely worked with other grade 1s. Mei probably has been on a mission or two with Nanami, been on a mission or two with Kusakabe, and have like genuine experience and capability to compare them, and they're on that level, meaning they would have a pretty professional and probably mostly unbiased opinion. These two are noted to be extremely analytical and sensical in a lot of their takes, so of course, when asked such a reasonable question that pertains heavily to their field, they're going to answer honestly, and the fact that Kusakabe comes to number 1 on the list is impressive. Gojo is an interesting choice to ask, because once again, he probably looks at it like, I mean, they're all fodder to me. But if I had to take a guess, Kusakabe, which is still a valuable opinion, right? Gojo, with the 6 eyes, would be able to determine the strength of most people just by looking at them. And while he probably hasn't been on missions with Kusakabe, or at least many missions, he can probably recognize and judge everyone's strength in comparison to Kusakabe. It's like, he has the highest output, some of the best speed, he's really good with simple domain. Yeah, it's probably Kusakabe. But I do like that the big 3 families are mentioned here. Nobito and Naoya essentially do get their indirect credit. And I suppose a lot of the other Zenin grade 1s also get their indirect credit, like your Ogi Zenins, like your Jinichis. I would say anyone from the Kamo clan, but I'm not sure. Was Kamo a grade 1 by the time of Goodwill? Which is why I presume this time period takes place around. Kamo, Noritoshi. Let me see. Noritoshi Kamo, what grade were you, buddy? What grade were you? Oh, he's 18. I thought he was 17. Let's see. What grade are you? Tell me. Tell me the truth. A semi-grade 1. So yeah, Kamo wouldn't even be in the discussion, and we know of no other Kamo clan members. At least from the modern day. We just simply do not know of them. So, if we're talking about the grade 3 families, it is legit just a Zenin clan getting some grades, which is nice. Once again, I do believe, most likely, at the time, with Nobito being the second fastest, only to Satoru Gojo, probably Nobito's the real strongest grade 1. And then Naoya may be a close second, and then who knows where Jinichi and Ogi and all them scale, just because we don't have the information on them. And we know they should all scale lower than Nobito, since, not Nobito, well actually yeah, Nobito too, because they were all lower than Naoya, who was the leader of the Hei. And then Naoya was likely still lower than his father, since he wasn't the clan head yet. So, Kusakabe being the 3rd strongest grade 1 soldier? Impressive. And the strongest of the general class, which is extra impressive because, once again, he doesn't have a curse technique. He's a really, really good master of the basics, which is nice. Good scaling stuff. It means basically that Kusakabe, at least in terms of overall stats, would probably end up beating Todo, and probably end up beating any of the students for the most part, like, except for maybe like Megami and Itadori, obviously. But he'd probably take Nobara on a walk, take Panda on a walk, take Inumaki on a walk, maybe even take Todo on a walk. Like, that's the thing. Because the guy is very, very good, and I do like that. Usami, or I think it's Usami. I'm sorry, I have no idea how to say the name. But Usami, a lot of people are theorizing that maybe Kusakabe's sister. Interesting. I didn't even know he had a sister. Once again, goes to show you how much I know about JJK. I didn't know he had a sister. But neat that she gets a mention here. Wonder if she'll show up. Highly doubt it, though. Kusakabe, if that is his sister, or anyone significant to him, he probably told them, leave. Do not show up to the battlefield. Do not appear. So that's good. That's good. But, of course, remember this for later. There's a reason. There's a big... Why are you so loud? Stop it! I hate hearing you. I need to get a new chair. I've had you for a while. I'm gonna invest, gosh darn it. Because you make too much noise. Please! You did not make noise. I'm begging you. But, with it being the case, there's a reason we're glazing Kusakabe right away at the start of this Maki versus Sukuna chapter. Oh, there's a reason, alright. But, when we see, cutting back to the present, Maki sleeps another Dismantle. Once again, I know. It's weird though. It probably should though. I would have if I had to hazard a guess, output probably also affects the speed. The question is, are dismantles all uniform in speed? Can Sukuna vary their speed or anything like that? Does the speed change on output, or is it just the power that changes on output? I don't know. If you think the speed is uniform, then I'd say this is still relatively impressive, because that means the speed probably wouldn't change. Meaning that Maki at least dodged single slashes completely from close and or far range. Like, she literally leaps this and then she's right in Sukuna's face here. So meaning that Sukuna fired this slash at relatively close range. And later on in this chapter, we'll see her react to a slash that's like, admittedly, a car's distance away, but she has to turn around and react to it and block it, which is still very impressive if you think dismantles are uniform in speed. If you think Dismantle's drop in speed with Sukuna's drop in output, and they need to have their speed restored by chance, then this is less impressive. Because once again, the best speed feat Maki would have is dodging World Slash, which would be peak, presumably max speed, because that would be at normal strength, from the chance and the hand sign and everything that goes into that. But if you think that neither of those are the case, and the speed is determined at random by Sukuna, then it's basically impossible to quantify. Yeah, that's the big issue, right? Because and 9 out of 10 times I still will give Maki credit for this. She's the only, as Sukuna himself says, you're the only sorcerer that can see them this good, or pseudo sorcerer. Because once again, he goes on to acknowledge the fact that she's the opposite of sorcerer later on in this chapter, but she's compared explicitly to Maharaga. No one else has gotten that comparison. Yuji didn't get that comparison, even though I believe he can see him. I think we literally see him. They're about to slash his face and he blocks them. So I think Yuji can see him, but he clearly can't react to them as well as Maki can. He can't dodge out of the way as easily as she can. Yuta, maybe, once again, it's a question of if he can see them. Like, I'm not sure. He does dodge what appears to be a little net of dismantles, or like a weird click, like that thing in 250 or 251, I do believe, where Sukuna puts his hand down and then Yuta. So he may be able to perceive them and dodge them sometimes, but then again, he gets hit by a bunch of them when Sukuna's much weaker, while he gets a domain amp. That's the weird thing. And that's why I'm kind of in the third camp. I don't really think dismantles are uniform in speed, nor do I think dismantles, like, just drop consistently with output. But if they do, I think Sukuna can kind of just control. Because how does Yuta go from dodging Sukuna and his cleaves or dismantles outside of the domain when he's weaker, and then before Yuji has hit him a couple times, and then inside the domain after Yuji's tagged him a couple times, and Yuta's done damage to him, and Sukuna's output's falling even lower, then he gets tagged. It's weird. Once again, it's hard to tell. I'm gonna give Maki street cred, because once again, she's the only sorcerer to consistently dodge, react, or block, or completely avoid dismantles of some of the highest caliber in the case of World Slash, and some of these random ones, which are still pretty big, but still admittedly random. I'm gonna give her cred. I'm gonna lean in. I'm gonna say I'm going to assume that Dismantle is fast. I'm gonna make that assumption. I'm gonna assume that World Slash is fast. Faster than most things. And thusly, most likely faster than anything that Yuta could produce, or Hikari could produce, or Yuji could produce. I'm going to assume World Slash is faster than all of those things. And thusly, Maki's ability to react to those things means she'd be able to react to anything slower than them and dodge them if they come uniformly. Omnidirectional attacks would still work very well on Maki because she can't dodge other than running away. Or attacks that are still faster than that, like we'll see later on this chapter. Sukuna Perception Blitzes his own World Slash, apparently. How? I don't know. But he ends up doing it later on in this very chapter. So, things that are still faster than Maki, that can clear her precog, will clear her precog. That's clear, simple, and to the point. But, in terms of general speeds, in terms of consistency in reacting and dodging and blocking and redirecting dismantles and slash them away, I'm gonna give Maki a street cred. I've seen a bunch of people say Maki's the weakest of the heavy hitters. And I'll agree, in terms of damage percentage, she does the worst. Like, she pierces his heart on a sneak attack. She never tags, bro. Like, across both... Well, okay, she throws him around. And notably, you'll see, she does actually knock some juice out of him. And she is able to, like, bum rush and knock him around. But in terms of, like, legit damage, like, Yuta tore his arm off. Admittedly, domain amped, after Sukuna got hit by Jacob's Ladder. But he also tore his mouth out before he got hit by Jacob's Ladder. And he also ripped his tongue right out. Now, I'm not sure how much Sukuna reinforced his tongue in order for him to, like, resist the tug of Yuta Okotsu. But still, in terms of, like, just damage, if we're ranking everybody by how much damage they end up doing to Sukuna, it's gonna go a little something like this. It's gonna be Yuta at 1. Well, Gojo at 1, obviously. Then it's gonna be Yuta at 2. Clearly. He, once again, rips out the tongue, rips off the arm, rips out the mouth, and then so slamming up Jacob's Ladder. Once again, I mentioned the burning on Sukuna. That very clearly comes from Yuta, so Yuta's at 2. Which lines up with how the series scales to 2. Gojo at number 1, Yuta at number 2. Then 3, I think it's kind of I think you'd have to say Yuji, but the thing is, what damage does Yuji really do? I'm trying to think. Like, he does soul damage. He knocks the soul loose. And he does, like, detonate. He uses supernova on Sukuna's face. But, like, as we see in the color page, and as we'll see later on this chapter, I mean, it didn't really do too much damage. It was really Yuta who was, like, carrying the damage front on Sukuna. It was Yuji who was punching at his soul and doing stuff like that. But I'm trying to think of what, like, lethal or serious damage that Yuji did. And it's pretty minimal, I have to say. And the same thing with Kashima, right? Because he knocks some juice out of Sukuna. But then again, I think Yuji does the same thing. So it's kind of like a time between those two. And then it's Maki, who's at the bottom. Unless you count in things like the heart stab and her knocking some juice out of him when she throws him around later on in this chapter. So those bottom three are kind of make it. So then between those three, you guys start comparing the speed performances and how they interact. So if you think that full chant plus hand sign world slashes should be equal in speed, then Maki, who had a world slash hidden from her, versus Kashima, who had a world slash warned about and still got tagged, then Maki should be faster, right? But if you think that since that was the healthiest Sukuna we've seen so far, freshly incarnated, that would still end up hindering his output, even if he did the full chant, plus the hand sign, plus the distance travel. Maybe not. Or if you think that that world slash that was used against Kashima was different, once again, the complications of this are endless. Which is fine. I do enjoy the discussion of this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So, I'll give you, once again, as we go through the chapter, I'll give you all three of the interpretations. This is a relevant interpretation, this could mean something interpretation, and the Maki Glaze interpretation. Of course, your boy's a Maki meat muncher, so I'm going to go for the Maki Glaze, primarily. But, I will cover everything. So, to do that for this, she leaps a slash here. A slash wide enough to cleanly cut through a building, which is a bigger slash, which is honestly the biggest slash we've seen since the Kashima fight. And I guess maybe Yuta, but even then, Yuta's world slash was actually relatively tiny when you look at it, because Yuji didn't get hit by world slash. He got hit by, like, a dismantle. Well, what he does against Ino later. Yuji got hit by a dismantle net. He didn't actually get hit by world slash, because Yuta had one clean slice, while Yuji didn't. And they were right next to each other. So if Yuji actually got tagged by world slash, he should be in half too. But he didn't. Rika also didn't get hit by world slash. I think she was just cleaved. Because remember, she was holding Sukuna's arms. He probably just and then squeezed and then cleaved. So neither of them got hit by world slash. It was just Yuta. And that was relatively tiny. But with that being the case, that was small. A lot of the slashes that Sukuna was using against Yuta and Yuji were relatively small. The biggest slashes we've seen him use were against Satoru Gojo, something else that also cleaved the building in half. Or at least left a big old chunk of the building. No, it cleaved the building in half because they ended up diving through the building after he cleaved it in half. And then against Kashimo, the big slash, then this massive dismantle net he sent towards Kashimo. Those are the biggest. But once again, does size matter? If you think size doesn't matter in terms of how much output or energy or force is being put behind it, then this is irrelevant. And plus, Sukuna's super weak. Weak as we've seen him since 19 finger. Well, not 19 finger, 20 finger post Gojo fight. One arm, one leg, all that. 2 eyes. That's weak. So this could be irrelevant. If you think it means something, it just once again feeds into the narrative that Maki can react to slashes, perceive them, and use her precog to jump over them and avoid them. Which is something few other characters can do. But, once again, these are relatively weak, meaning they don't actually mean too much in the grand scheme of things. It just means Maki's able to compete with a tired and suppressed Sukuna. More than tired, a heavily damaged and suppressed Sukuna. But then, there's the Maki Glaze interpretation. She once again just leaps at Dismantle from close range, which is something no one else has been able to do. Meaning she's the fastest. In terms of at least sheer combat and reaction speed, in combination with her precog. I like that. But I see the arguments for both, so I'm leaning more towards the middle. This chapter, especially after rereading it a couple times, has put me more towards the middle ground. Where you can use some things, but the main thing you'd have to use is World Slash. And, like, something she does later in the chapter, in terms of, like, physically bum-rushing Sukuna and knocking him and throwing him around, which is something that only Rika has been shown to do. Yuta, he hits Sukuna with the uppercut of the gods in 250, I believe 251. He does, and then knocks Sukuna to the heavens. But in terms of throwing Sukuna around, It's only Maki and Rika. The two women have been knocking around the king. But once again, we'll get to that. We see the two start exchanging blows. Swang, 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 clang, 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 right here at the bottom. They go, mink, 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 mink. But I do love this. You see the building slowly start to... As the foundation realizes, oh, wait, our connective tissue, that was torn apart. We about to fall. And they do start to clang, 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 clang. Now, I made a mistake in the spoiler discussion because I completely forgot the initial spoiler discussion. I ended up correcting it by the long one, but in the short one, I made a mistake. I thought Sukuna was just no-selling Soul Split, which in my opinion had nerfed Soul Split. Oh, you can just reinforce yourself and be fine? Oh, well, that's kind of sad. No, based on the fact that it's a clang, 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 like, it sounds like this. That was wrong. Don't clip. But, well, yeah, we're on YouTube. You can't clip that, hopefully. But with that being the case, it's metal on metal. Or at least it's the kind of sound of metal on metal. And remember, which I didn't, Sukuna ended up revealing to Yuta in 250 that he can interact with blades very well by consistently using dismantle or cleave around his hands and his body in order to prevent things from actually coming in contact with him. And that's what he's likely doing here. Him and Maki have this little exchange where Maki is, well, come here, get over here. Where Maki's, but Sukuna's just bing, 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 and knocking them all away by defending himself with this mantle. And that leads to the two pseudo-stalemating here. But once again, this is all Sukuna holding back. We'll see him tweak out in a little bit. Trust me. Trust me. We'll see him tweak out in a little bit. But we see Sukuna blocks, defends mostly everything. Interesting, I still don't get fully why his arm is up here. His lower arm is up this high. Maybe he ends up slicing the building in half again and I just can't tell. But his like lower right arm is raised to the heavens here for some reason. I'm not sure why. Especially considering he could literally just use this while they're in this confrontation, just boop, and like hit Maki right here with the lower arm. Because once again, he's guarding with these two, which makes sense. He's likely reinforcing himself plus using cleave and dismantle. But you do have a free hand, bucko. This is why you were glazed and called perfection, man. Like you do have the extra arms. Like this one's still cut off, but you have this one, buddy. But we see him and Maki end up neutralizing here, which is nice. But once again, we've seen other characters neutralized Sukuna before, so there's not really too much to glaze off this one. And the building falls. And it collapses on the bridge. Shoutouts to the bridge for even holding up the whole upper half of the building falling on it. And notably, the building bursts and all these cars start to come out. Now, I'll admit, part of me wants to say some of these cars were thrown, because golly, but at the same time, a whole building full of cars, maybe like a whole parking garage falls. Yeah, the cars will likely come out with a decent amount of force. And we see Maki, impressively enough, considering how close the building was to them by the time it was about to land, completely avoids the entire building falling down, ends up sliding further down the road. Sukuna, though, and this is impressive, right? Because you notice how you don't see Sukuna here. It sort of builds into the fact that Sukuna's speed is still fundamentally insane. Because you do not see Sukuna here. He is nowhere near in the shot. But notably, this car here is not this car. This is a darker car. This lighter car is the car that ends up over here in this shot. Meaning that Sukuna was nowhere in sight here, likely still in the rubble, and then as this car reached Maki, got behind her, he then appeared. He essentially chased behind the car. He's speedy. He's very speedy. And we see he goes to use this cover to launch a dismantle. Now, this is a question for everyone. What does this mean? Is this the hand sign? What hand sign does dismantle have? Because I've been hearing mixed things. I've been hearing people say this is the hand sign, and this is just aiming, or vice versa, this is the hand sign, and this is just aiming. Like, he uses this against Yuta. And notably, it seems like how he points the fingers and then the thumb determines how the slash is launched out. Because notably, we see against Yuta, when he does it this way, he has a slightly tilted hand, the world slash ends up coming out angled, and slices Yuta in half, not perfectly diagonally, but like at a tilted angle, just like the angle his hand is at. And we see with this one, when he clamps down, does this, fires it off, the slash, at least based on how it's drawn here, comes out vertically, matching his positioning with the tilt of the hand. But even then, not entirely, because there's this line here intersecting with this line, meaning this is a 2-stage slash, but on Maki, this is a 1-stage slash that's going this way. So I'm not exactly sure if anything matters. That's the thing, I'm not sure. However, once again, this is still very impressive. Sukuna, while trying to hide a dismantle, ends up firing one at Maki through a car, and she still reacts to it and blocks it. Intriguing. But once again, I'll give you the 3 interpretations. Interpretation number 1. This Sukuna's super duper weak. So sure, it's cool that he can slice through a car and knock Maki back, but that just means Maki's fodder. Because she's getting knocked around by a super fatigued, no-chant, maybe hand-signed dismantle. Whack! Maybe 2-stage dismantle, but still, whack! You'd have got knocked back by like 5 at once, and he still ate them, knocked that right off. I was like, I gotta get back in. I need my smoke. So Yuta was moving deviously. Yuji was also moving deviously. Well, to be fair, he was trying to move deviously. He was getting beat up a little bit. But still, Yuji was moving deviously after stronger dismantles. So there's the lower interpretation. For the middle interpretation, it still is impressive that Maki is able to, while completely, well, not completely off guard, she's clearly in the battle with Sukuna, but while facing the other direction, it is still impressive that she manages to turn around, raise her blade, and block the whole slash to the point where she doesn't take any damage by bracing herself with Soul Split, all before Sukuna launches off and hits her, before she fully turns around. But it doesn't mean she's faster than anybody necessarily. It's just her. But then again, like, how much does precog really matter in a case where you can't use it? But then again, it's the changes in the air. She can feel that. It isn't just based on her eyesight. So she is using the changes in the air and likely track Sukuna's location that way. Where some would track Sukuna by cursed energy tracking, Maki did that. So this is a feat that others could replicate if they could track Sukuna. Which we see that they kind of can, but they kind of can depending on how Sukuna's moving. Once again, a big issue that also comes into the whole scaling thing is Sukuna's fluctuating mood. And how much he's taking people seriously and how much he isn't. Like, Urume, at the end of 252, explicitly notes, y'all should not feel proud. That man has been vibing aggressively ever since Satoru Gojo. Not a single one of you have done anything. In fact, he hasn't even gone all out yet. But not going all out can mean multiple things, especially in a world like Jujutsu Kaisen. There are numerous levels in our world of not going all out on somebody. Not even in like a fighting context, but just in general. Like, say you're in a sport. You could just decide to run at half your speed, at 75% of your speed, at 25% of your speed. You can just choose how hard you want to run, how hard you want to throw a ball, how hard you want to tackle somebody. Like, you can choose how much you engage. And since Sukuna is noted by Urume to be very capricious, very fluctuating in mood and how much he cares, it's basically impossible to tell who brought out more. Unless you try to use the dismantles to scale by their size and how much chance and stuff he puts behind them. And how they interact and travel. But even still, that's the thing. It's such a... It's a reason it's a scaling nightmare. It's a fugue state scaling nightmare. Because, at least in my opinion, we see that Sukuna can be just as strong or just as beyond everyone if he really feels like it later on in this chapter. Maki, once again, dodged his full chant slash. What do you think, it's a world slash or not? She dodged a full chant, hand sign, hidden slash. But then, this same Maki gets perception blitzed by regular Sukuna in this very same chapter. Yuta dodges a net of either a net of dismantles or a cleave into 50, only to get tagged numerous times by further dismantles that are sent from much farther away. Later on, in 252, well, not in 252, but in 251, while in his domain, where he should have a stat amp. So which is it? Is how much energy, how much effort is Sukuna putting in? It's impossible to tell. It really is. And that leads to the nightmarish thing. Highest interpretation scaling for this, once again, she reacts to and flat out blocks a dismantle. A dismantle that, at least based on her perspective, was going more horizontally. But she blocks it like this, meaning she just killed all the momentum of the invisible slash and stopped it, which once again is something no one has ever done. Like, even Yuta, who has eaten dismantles, he can't fully stop the force. He does get knocked back by them, even when they're super weak and or minor. But then again, Maki also gets knocked back, meaning she's fodder. See what I mean? There are infinite ways you can kind of take stuff like this, which is the fun of it, but also the nightmare of it if you're trying to do inverse scaling. Cross-verse scaling, once again, none of this really matters because we don't have a quantifiable speed for the dismantles. Like, we don't have, the dismantles are light speed, or they travel at lightning speed, or they travel at the speed of sound. Like, we have nothing for that, which is unfortunate. But that's for cross-verse. Inverse is just as complicated as cross-verse, ironically enough, for JJK in particular. Mainly because, like, JJK doesn't do that well cross-verse. I'll be real. It has some high tiers. And depending on how you wank it, it can do fine enough cross-verse. But, like, outside of Gojo, JJK really doesn't do too. Gojo, and I guess now Sukuna with World Slash, Spatial Slash, it can do better. But, like, a majority of the characters in JJK, you don't take Yuji cross-verse. Heck, you barely take Yuta cross-verse. He's way stronger than Yuji. You don't take a cross. Like, there are few characters you take cross-verse because of the general lack of power, unless you do some weird interpretation stuff. But still, interesting enough, Maki blocks and gets knocked through a building, out of one building, through another. And once again, Sukuna just shows his, like, demonic speed. Like, bro was here, behind the car, launches off the Dismantle. The Dismantle knocks Maki into an entirely separate office building, and Sukuna's already there. Bro already showed up. Bro's like, you're late for the meeting, Maki. What are you doing? Just knocked her through whole buildings, but he's already booking it down the hallway. Like he was straight, like he's a hall monitor. Bro's moving devious. For what? For what? Sukuna, you fiend. You fiend. You animal. You animal. And like animals. And he slaughtered them like animals. Like, dog, what? And we see that Maki, after getting slammed through, I'll admit, it's somewhat impressive that in the midst of getting slammed through a wall, I guess he senses Sukuna well enough that she turns in time, but she doesn't stop him from tagging her, which is still unfortunate for her reaction speed. So then Sukuna, once again, he is still above, and the fluctuations keep occurring, unless you think Maki and Ino are of similar speed and durability. We'll get to that in a second. But we see that Maki does get hit by Cleave here. But once again, the efficacy of this is in question. We know that Cleave doesn't just auto-adjust to 0 in terms of output if something doesn't have curse energy. We've seen him use Cleave on buildings. In fact, that's, except for when he misses a Dismantle, that's all he uses on buildings. He'll grab them and immediately destroy them. So we know that Cleave does not auto-adjust to 0. And Sukuna, as he admits, he knows that Maki has no cursed energy. So if he didn't think Cleave would do anything by the nature of Cleave, he wouldn't have used it on her. But the thing is, how much do you rate this feat? It can't be too high because he doesn't chant for it. And notably, we don't know Cleave's hand sign. Maybe his hand sign is legit just placing an open palm on you. We saw him use feet Cleave. Maybe he spread his toes out a little bit, just like he spreads his hand out here. But I still really can't give her too much credit for this. This is even something I can, like, Maki Meat Munch, because there's nothing impressive about it. Mainly because, like, Yuji, I mean, I guess it's impressive that she eats it as well as she does, with, like, little to no damage and immediately gets right back into the fight afterwards, instead of, like, needing to run away to heal or anything like that, or needing to heal at all. But, like, Yuji and Yuta do the same thing. Like, Yuta literally gets, and then thrown away after getting smacked in the face by Cleave, and he just no-sells it. Because the clashes are weak to him. He takes damage, of course, but, like, he immediately heals it off. It does very little damage to him. So Yuji, he does take a whole bunch of damage from a very similar situation, getting tagged on the chest by Cleave back in the Higuruma battle, and then getting tagged again on the chest by Cleave in the Sukuna battle with Yuta. But at the same time, he heals both of those off, and those are much stronger Sukunas than the one that Maki's dealing with. So her taking any damage at all is embarrassing, in a way. But the fact that she tanks it as well as she does with just a little juice spurt, good stuff. Good stuff. But we see that Ino. Oh, I'm gonna hold on. You know what? I'll give it a second. Ino pulls up. I swear he's not using Ryu still. I don't know why he's not using Ryu. Not Ryu Ishigori. He has a technique called Ryu that apparently no one has lived to tell the tale from. Ino, where is he? Where's Ryu? But we see that Tsukuna's like, oh, you think you like that for real. So he turns, taking the same hand he used to cleave Maki to just... I guess this is the sign for the dismantle net. Because he sends it out and tears Ino apart. Oh, no. That's a rock. Oh, shoot! Is his hand go... I think his hand may be... Unless... Unless his hand is hidden by... I think he may... No, maybe that's his hand. I'm not sure. It looks like he may have lost a hand. Huh. Well, let me do something. I gotta take a sip for Ino. Stay hydrated, folks. Stay hydrated. You're back on, right? Please be on. Don't let me record for the rest of this and you not be on. But still, my boy. I'll give him credit for showing up. For showing up and showing out. Like, I would have pulled the comp. Like, if y'all were grade 1 sorcerer, let's just assume everyone gets at least grade 1. Of course, if we made you special grade, then maybe it'd be a bit more fair. But let's just say we're all grade 1 sorcerers. We're all Ino level. Are y'all showing up or are y'all pulling combos? Because I'm pulling combo. I'm leaving. I'm taking my family and I'm tipping. I gotta. There's no way. There's no way I'm staying there. So I gotta give any credit to Ino for showing up and showing out. And I'm so sorry. Excuse me. But we gotta give him credit because presumably Sukuna would have just kept on cleaving Maki here. So admittedly, I don't know where Soul Split is in this panel. Like, it should be somewhere. But he would have probably just kept on cleaving Maki with that same hand. So Ino does come in the clutch and save Maki here for a bit. But time, bro. He gets Dismantle netted. But once... You see what I mean, though? Am I now supposed to believe that Dismantle nets are so fodder that Ino can mostly survive them? Arguably. Like, he can seemingly enough survive them very well, and it seems like it's the kick that does the most lethal damage. Like, he definitely loses some juice here, you can see that. But it's mainly the kick that causes him to, like, straight up through his mask. So, or Dismantle that's just that weak now? Is he just that booty meat? Is he just that fodder? And is Maki fodder for taking any damage from cleave? Or is Sukuna adjusting the output at random? Does the strength really matter? Is there consistency? I don't know. It's weird. I'll be completely real. It's weird. It's why I low-key believe it's all arbitrary. Characters will eat some hits from Dismantles and some won't because it's arbitrary. Sukuna's just randomly fluctuating. As Arume said, he's just lowering and raising the scale depending on what he feels like. Clearly, he could one-shot everybody here if he wants to. But he just doesn't. Because he's vibing, I guess. And we see he drop kicks Ino through... And someone pointed out in the comments that apparently Ino did lose his arm. Hold on, I'm running to... Yeah. Oh. Yeah, China9 pointed out. Did you see that Ino got his arm obliterated by... Did he? It looks like it. I can see the vision. China9. Thank you. But, like, golly, I did not notice that. And it is horrifying to think about the implications of that. Golly. So his arm got eviscerated. Unless that's, like I said, unless that right there is meant to be his hand, this little section right here, it does look like his whole arm got jacked up. I mean, it's still attached to his body. Same thing here. Like, this almost looks like his leg is torn off, but this is clearly a piece of glass. But, I give credit for him being in mostly one piece. No Luffy. I appreciate that. But golly, I think he won't be coming back for a little bit because he doesn't have RCT. I don't think so. We probably ain't gonna see Ino for a little bit. But with it being the case, Ino comes in clutch. But I do like this. Sukuna is paying attention. Clearly, the strike from Ino, the critical hit from Ino, didn't do anything the last time he got hit by it. He literally just, he drop kicked Ino away. But I like how he's so smart. He's still paying attention. Sukuna still is awake enough that he immediately notices. Wait a minute. Did he not have his usual curse tool? Like, he's still paying attention. Once again, slowly but surely, Sukuna's growing on me. I need like 1 or 2 more chapters before I put him above Kenjaku. I know it sounds crazy, and especially considering how I'm about to leap into glazing Sukuna relatively soon. Trust me, it's gonna happen. It's probably shocking you that, like, oh, you still need stuff to put him above Kenjaku? Yes. Because I love Kenjaku. And his character archetype, and his motivations, and stuff like that. And I think his fighting style is overall cooler, because I like curse spirit manipulation, and gravity manipulation, and Uzumaki. I just like Kenjaku's more common kit, more than I end up liking Sukuna's kit. I feel like Gege's allowed a lot more creativity and is willing to be a lot more creative with Kenjaku and his kit. Meanwhile, Sukuna right now, he's just been, I'll admit, as much as I'm fine with him just using Cleave and Dismantle, he has kind of just been a cutting merchant for a while now. He isn't really using the depths of his moveset that we know he has, or Gege could just give him if he really felt like it. So it feels like Gege's doing the opposite with Sukuna that he does with Kenjaku, where Kenjaku is allowed to be super duper creative and pull any curse whenever, whether it be the Spirit of Akira, whether it be that massive elephant curse, whether it be just random curses, whether it be that shark or that bird or whatever that came out at complete random, because they're just a bunch of different curses that Kenny could summon at any moment, and or gravity, which could be used interchangeably with curse spirit manipulation, and or his domain, all the stuff like that. Well, the domain is unfair because Sukuna doesn't have the domain, but the domain is also just more cutting merchant stuff. It feels like Gege's forcefully constricting Sukuna, which is unfortunate. Because I would like to see Sukuna get a little bit more fancy with it. Get that wrist whipping up a little bit more. But he doesn't. But regardless of all that, I like Sukuna's attentiveness here. Where he gets the... well, like, literally, he does the face of like... Didn't he have his usual curse tool? Did he not have it? Like, and it is funny how, at least in the officials, in the TCBs, he just says he didn't have his curse tool. But in this one, he's like, did he not have it? Like, he needs to double check. He body bagged Ino so badly that even in his own head, he's like, wait a minute. In that, like, 2-second span where I knocked that sorcerer out the window, did he not have that curse tool on him? And we see that a certain someone, a whole floor above, is like, I gotta cook. I'm the strongest grade 1 sorcerer outside of Nabito and Naoya, who both been god. I gotta cook. And Kusakabe goes to slam down the ratio cleaver on Sukuna. And notably, he does land the hit. Once again, it just goes to show Nanami's technique, at least it seems like it's just not all that. At least in their hands. Maybe in someone like Yuta's hands it would have gone crazy. Maybe in someone like Yuji's hands or Maki's hands, or maybe they should have just given it to Akari. Can you imagine Akari being able to fuel his curse energy into the the ratio cleaver, and just bonk you through all of Ume's ice constructs? But just in their hands, it doesn't do too much. He lands the crit. He does it appropriately. But Sukuna's just like, oh, you know, and notably, look at the detail here. The same hand he ended up blocking Kusakabe with, that Kusakabe realized, oh no, Sukuna noticed. He's about to spread me open. Hey, yo, please, not on live television. But with the same hand he blocked Kusakabe with, he's like, bonk. And then he just, like, I'm not sure. I'm interested to see how the anime adapts this, but he blocks and then probably immediately moves his hand and grabs Kusakabe and slams him into the wall. I don't know, something's mellow about it. He didn't have to like block and then grab with his right. No, with his same left hand, he's like, man, if you don't get this off of me, you don't come here. Like, he's moving metal. I'll admit, Sukuna moves very, very metal. I've described it before. He's very bestial in his fighting style. Very primeval. Very brutish. Despite being the strongest sorcerer in history. This apex of Jujutsu. He's very much, man, if you don't, which is nice. It goes to show the balance. That it's not mutually exclusive. You can still move, fight, act, and talk like a beast. But that doesn't mean you have to be oh no, oh, I can't be proper, I can't be clean. You still can be both. You can be an animal, but you can be a man at the same time. And Sukuna is the epitome of that. However, once again, going into Maki throwing Sukuna around here, back to the Maki v Sukuna fight, since we cut away from that for a little bit. Maki comes in after presumably just walking off the cleave she was hit by, and before Kusakabe can get cleaved up or do any serious damage other than being... Why is it Wud? Why is it not Thud? What is Wud? I've never heard that side of SFX before. Wud? But we see Maki comes in, Kusakabe gets dropped, and it looks like she just bum rushed him through the building. Like, I want to say she ends up drop kicking him, but she may have just straight, like, double fisted, because notably she has Soul Split Katana on her hip again, meaning that she didn't do this with SSK. She just, boom, just straight either dual fisted or like flying drop kicked him off of Kusakabe. Which is still less impressive than what Riko was doing. Let me say that. Unmanifested Riko was still manhandling Sukuna way better because she just had to... Meanwhile, Maki does seemingly enough need this run-up. Like, she's just straight Like, I would demonstrate, but one, I don't have the room, and two, I can't do a flying drop kick without immediately hurting myself. So the fact that Maki just knocks bro, like, look at bro, he's like, what in the world? And Maki immediately comes to a harsh stop. And then, this is crazy, she ends up like, what is that? I gotta look up what that move is called. I glazed over it in the live reaction. We can check it over on Patreon for as low as $1 a month. Become a member for as low as $3 a month to check out the live reaction to this very chapter. But let me see. Let me take a look in a book. Reading Rainbow. Iron Back. Fighting technique. Let me see. Let me take a look in a book. Fighting from your back. Now, what is that move I'm thinking of? Not Iron Body Training. It's the ultimate move from Undead Unluck for Shen. I'm trying to see. What is it? Shen, Undead, Unluck. Ultimate move. Shen. What is it? What is it? I think it's a Taekwondo technique. I'm not going to find it in time. But essentially, she just hard slams the back. Like, she just straight bonks Sukuna so hard that she bounces him off. Hold on, let me see. Shin creates his own martial arts, very skilled hand-to-hand combat. Mountain Strike. Body blow. Oh wait, no, that's not it. Dashes the enemy instantaneously, something strikes to the head, knees, shoulder. No, it's not what I'm looking for. I think I can't find it. I'll remember it after I record. But I think that's what she does here. Because at first, when I read this, I thought maybe she had thrown Sukuna. But notably, you see, she has this point where she slams him with her back, and Sukuna gets hit, and he straight bonks off a pillar. Just hard, like he was slammed. And once again, this comes a question. Is this debris, or is this life juice? This little splatter here. Because, at least in my opinion, way back here, when Maki's getting cleaved, this is life juice. This splatter that comes out here, that's the blood. But here, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if he takes damage here, because his back is looking very clean. But then once, and I still don't fully understand the point of this panel here, this feels like weird. If someone can explain this panel to me, I would greatly appreciate it. I still don't fully understand. It looks like a connecting energy. Like, it looks like this is connecting their two backs, right? Like, the line of electricity ends up acting as, like, an impact point that connects the two here. But then, like, what is this? And this? I don't... Like, this looks like a light switch, and this looks like a conduit. Like, I have no idea. But Maki hard slams him into a pillar and possibly knocks some juice out of him. Possibly, though. I don't know. I can't really tell. And I wouldn't be shocked if this isn't juice. If it's just, like, impact points and how Gege shows force. Because it's not as explicitly drawn as juice here. And since it's like an impact point, not something like cleave being used here, which would make more sense to immediately cause juice to spurt out. Unless Maki just hit Sukuna that hard that he's bleeding from his back. But I don't think so. Once again, Hai's interpretation, Maki straight up beams Sukuna through a building while he's holding back. And then proceeds to beam Sukuna again into a concrete pillar and draw blood from him. Middle interpretation, she is able to save Kusakabe before Kusakabe is able to get cleaved, which is impressive. Remember, she's doing this after she herself was cleaved with no SSK. But at the same time, doesn't really mean too much because Sukuna's holding back still and probably just wanted to see what it would feel like. And those interpretation just doesn't matter. So, it's unfortunate. It's hard to give Maki too much credit for this. But we see she tries to cook a little bit. As she says, if this fight drags on, another problem will come up, even if Yuta survives. I've got to stay here and stand for... Oh. Okay. So see that... okay. In the TCBs, she said she has to finish this. I have to defeat him now! But at least in these official translations, I gotta stay here and stand firm. So even she knows she couldn't win. Which... even doubles that. Maki, you should have just sagged Mega Me, bro. You should have just sagged Mega Me. No! Because a certain thing transpires. I do like this, though. I like how she goes to essentially do what Sukuna did, but since she can't use cleave, she has to do it in a more inefficient manner. She uses SSK to slice through the concrete pillars, and then we'll start to kick them at Sukuna in a bit to try and block his vision. But little does she know, he probably has a form of pseudo pseudo precog himself, just based on how he acts like a heavenly restriction user, is able to like hop off air like they are, and the way he's able to read through a lot of Gojo's attacks. And also, she just didn't know that she's him. She didn't know that he's him. As the narrator declares, after Satoru Gojo's death, Hajime Kashimo, Hiromi Higuruma, and Yuta Akotsu each fought Sukuna with exceptional talent. But what piqued Sukuna's interest the most was the one who had forsaken Jujutsu, Maki Zeden, and her heavenly restriction. The King of Curses was elated by this reality. I'll admit, I like the TCB translation more, where he was reached this feeling of ecstasy. But this is still good too. He was elated by this reality. So, there are ways to interpret this statement too, but this is like stretching it. The finest interpretation is all of them were like just talented. There's nothing here to be said about difficulty or anything, but once again, allow me to Maki meat munch a little bit. A way you could interpret this to like glaze on Maki is that Sukuna wasn't really intrigued with anything that Hajime, Hiromi, or Yuta had to offer. He was like, they're there. They had exceptional talent. But you can even see Sukuna does get a little bit bored with Higuruma. He's like, heal. Because he doesn't find Higuruma a threat and forces him to evolve only to off him anyway. Kashimo Hajime, he like respects him enough, but he still says, you were strong, right? And then proceeds to absolutely bully him the moment he feels like it. Same thing with Yuta Akotsu for the most part. You see him fluctuate between, oh, I guess I can't tag you, to, hold on, let me atomize your queen and smack you in the face while I'm being held down because I'm better than you. And then he world slashes him. And apparently would be able to brute force through a max output Jacob's Ladder. If the plan of his, before Magaby ended up, leaving it all behind, was to be considered true in the slightest. So, maybe you could make an argument that the first person to actually pique his interest and get him remotely excited and take the battle even slightly seriously is Maki. But in that case, he wasn't taking Maki seriously up to this point. He only starts to hear, and then she barely does anything. So it's hard, and once again, it's basically impossible to give Maki much street cred. The only thing you can give her street cred for is little things, and we'll get to that. But I still like this as a character moment. This is making me like Sukuna a lot more. That's why I say I only need 1 or 2 more chapters, 1 or 2 more moments like this for me to really start liking him. Because of what happens afterwards. Maki goes to kick, once again trying to use the sliced pillars as distractions, as option points to open up a mix-up on Sukuna. Essentially, call your assistant fighters, and then snap behind them, hit them with the snap mix. Well, you can't snap. That is not how that works. Essentially, she's trying to set up Sukuna for a 50-50, alright? She's trying to use Bardock B. She's playing base Vegeta. She's about to super dash kick, and she's about to hit you with a 4-way mix-up, alright? You got hit by Tyrant Lancer, you're now forced to block. But joke's on Maki. She's playing fighters, and he's playing Strive. Because he immediately vanishes. This is crazy. Like, this is insane. Like I said, this just proves that Sukuna, presumably, can just be faster than his world slashes. Like, at least seemingly. He's there, and then he's not. Maki couldn't even tell what, like, look. She just gets... Dog. The disrespect is crazy. And here's the thing. He doesn't just grab her. He grabs her and then drags her out the building. Straight. Let's go for a walk. Boom. Hard perception blitz. Straight out the door. And, like, look at this. This could be argued as cleave, maybe, but probably not, because it's only 1 slash, and cleave is usually portrayed to be, like, numerous. I mean, technically, that's weird. But no, I think it's Maharagi. He uses Dismantle, which is a singular slash. Then he has this, which is the net slash. But here, he, with presumably, because at first I was going to chalk this up to, well, this doesn't make sense anatomically. How could his thumb have scraped the side of her face like this and do damage like this? It has to be his technique, based on the fact that he grabbed her. But 1, the technique would branch across more than just part of her face. And 2, he does grab this. Notably, he does cover her eye. Like, the grab, if I had to, like, manifest it to reality, it probably looks something like this. Meaning that it's possible his middle finger ended up scraping her face and drawing blood. Like, that's probably what ended up happening. He grabbed her so hard. And notably, remember, Sukuna, unlike Itadori, shockingly enough, does not have claws. It means that just with, like, how hard he indented his middle finger into her face as he went to grab it, he scraped her skin off. Huh? Like, once again, the lowest interpretation of this, Maki's durability is trash. She got scratched and started to bleed by a grab. That's not even how that's supposed to work. Middle interpretation, Sukuna is just that powerful and maybe like started to use a little bit. Maybe he used like a mini cleave or a mini dismantle. Or 3, she ate a face cleave. But even still, it's a face cleave from a holding back Sukuna. Who's still holding back. Like, I still think he's holding back on her, even when he starts to feel this state of elation, this ecstasy, as they fly out the building. And we see Sukuna go on the reason why I like him in this chapter, and explain a little something that gets me excited for him and his further ideology. As he goes, "She isn't some punk like the boy. She has carved away everything and became a true void. In the end, Jujutsu is about nothing but skin and blood. But your body is bone and marrow, right? Do you get what that means? Your very existence denies Jujutsu, which is worth turning into strength. Jujutsu or flesh? Let's settle this question with this battle." Has he stopped using reverse curse technique to heal? This is the first time that anyone has given me something to prove. I couldn't even say it properly. This is the first time that anyone has given me something to prove. He reels back and just it is so hard to replay 3 different times, bro. In a manga, I don't know. This has probably happened before. This probably isn't too crazy, but I cannot think of another moment where someone got hit so hard that the mangaka was like, it can't just be from this angle. It can't just be from that angle either. We need to do it 3 times. Maki got beamed so hard that he got shot. Oh my word, dog. 3 separate times. Dog. And like, here's the thing, it has to be a body shot. Unless we would see it. He literally grabs Soul Split, because this is the slight point where you can get someone impressive, right? Because he does perception blitzer here, he catches her off guard. It is a slight little bit of impressiveness. She does break free. Either he lets her go, but he does seem to draw a little bit of juice. She draws a little bit of juice off him. This does appear to be his blood, or it's possibly just her blood, which is even worse. And then you take that away. But you see, he gets excited. He locks in a little bit. He starts to speak, and then Maki is able to somewhat clash with him. He sends a punch. She reacts, blocks, holds it off. But once again, Sukuna's talking here, and then also he grabs Soul Split and moves it aside to hit her dead on with this black flash that hits so hard it replayed 3 different times. So, this is still a massive Maki L. Of course, as he says, this is the first time anyone has given me something to prove. Meaning that in the Gojo battle, this is unfortunately kind of like another knock to Gojo versus Sukuna as a fight. Essentially, and it makes sense because Gojo is the one acting as a challenger. Despite what he says at the start of the fight, Gojo is the challenger verbatim. That's how he treats the battle. He's always challenging Sukuna. Sukuna never necessarily challenges him. But essentially, by saying this, Sukuna is saying, yeah, your strongest sorcerer of the modern day, he didn't give me anything to prove. I had nothing to prove against him. I was just having fun. Against Kashimo Hajime, nothing to prove. It was easy. Light work. Obviously, against Hikoruma and Yuta, he had nothing to prove, too. But with Maki, this is the first time he's actually been invested. He actually feels like, whoa. Now my metal's being tested. I gotta see what's more important to refine. The flesh or Jujutsu. What transcends the body or the body itself. And that's an interesting thing. I like that Sukuna's genuinely invested in something like that. Like, in spite of his, obviously, non-scientific nature, he doesn't necessarily care too much about things of that ilk. Even still, when faced with something that stands as a direct opposition to everything he is. That's what Maki's doing. Of course, he still dabbles in Jujutsu. Soul Split is still an application of Jujutsu. Heck, Heavenly Restriction is technically an application of Jujutsu. But even still, when face was something that spits in his face so directly, even more than Yuji ever did, as Sukuna points out, she's not like him. She carved away everything. She left it all behind. There's not a drop in there. This is what causes Sukuna to be like, nah, I gotta show up. This is for Jujutsu. I ain't even doing this for me and me anymore. This is for the world itself. We gotta test this, bro. And at least, based on how this test goes, yeah, Jujutsu wins by a long shot. The refinement of Sukuna's body, which was born of the manifestation and perfection of Jujutsu, ends up bodybagging Maki. Absolutely dogging her. Though admittedly, unlike many others, I don't think Maki's cooked. I've seen a lot of people saying, he got Maki's number, Maki's done. I don't know. The Black Flash lands and is replayed 3 different times, but it's not like he pierces through her. And notably, his fist that he hits her with isn't really even covered in blood, meaning he didn't even pierce her. So he just blunt force damaged her. He knocked her back violently, drastically, horrifically, obviously. But I still think she's alive. She's just under extreme damage and in very dire straits. So if she tanks this, that's very impressive. I think this would be, outside of World Slash, which is literally spatial deletion, this would be the strongest attack we've likely ever seen from Sukuna, even while he's this weak. Because of the multiplier Black Flash. If you take the multiplier Black Flash at face value, at verbatim, it is raising the power of an attack to 2.5, multiplying the attack by half of the attack. Oh yeah, this would be the strongest attack Sukuna's ever seen. Or that Sukuna has ever dealt out to anybody. Even more than his full power, fresh start of the fight chant dismantles. Stuff like that. It's kind of like how the one punch from Satoru Gojo, the 2.5 blue Black Flash, that Black Flash that he landed dead in Sukuna's chest, is likely the strongest attack he's ever done. Just because of the multiplier, which should probably be even greater than purple, unless you think purple's a even greater multiplier than that upon red and blue. So, if Maki survives this, Maki sucks. Through the roof. If she gets back up next chapter, which I presume she has to in order to save Kusakabe's life, oh yeah, she's her. She's definitely her. She does have a resistance to curses, though, so maybe the Black Flash isn't as effective on her, but it is clearly effective enough. It knocked her back. Knocked her back quite a decent bit. And we see that Kusakabe realizes, oh no, I may be cooked. As he says, huh? No way. Am I the last one? What about Itadori? And Choso? I doubt Mei will show up. Oh, come on! If we had no chance of victory, I could have retreated earlier. But at this point, I have to fight. Right? Oh no. So am I going to fight Sukuna? To be continued. So, if you couldn't tell from my incessant yapping and my incessant glazing, and how much I like Sukuna's character in this chapter, how much I like Maki in this chapter, how much I like even Kusakabe for stepping in this chapter, the chapter is very, very worthy. Up next for Kusakabe, I don't think he's actually, if he's going to 1v1 Sukuna's going to be holding back. He's probably going to land maybe one more Black Flash next chapter, maybe not on Kusakabe, hopefully on Panda. And I don't see us offing Kusakabe for no reason, but he gets the focus. So presumably we're going to get at least half a chapter of Kusakabe. We were hyping Kusakabe at the start of this chapter, so he has to do something. Kusakabe is not going to be one tap, which is going to be very, very, very interesting to see. But all that aside, if you somehow made it to the end of this little chunker of a video, please leave True Void. Leave True Void in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. To get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the 30-minute live reaction to this very chapter, along with ad-free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Zach of the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Wakanda Plays, Greyhound, Akids Void, Astro, Red Wolf 4765, Eternal Flame, and Teen Mitgao. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons, Steron, Sean, Panda Goat, Midnight Lord 21, Metal Solid Crisis, Kevin, Ignil, and EHAC1. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 member, Autumn Mornings Lazo. And I'd like to give a big thank you to our $10 member, Jay Warrior. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $10 patrons, Joaquin and Idemo Kame. And I'd like to give a gargantuan thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Winter. Along with another juicy thank you to our $25 patron, China Doll 09. And I'd like to give a final giga gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.